Okay, Daniel chapter 2. So now we start getting to the good stuff. The real good stuff is later. But this is a preview. Daniel, like I said earlier, is very carefully written. And I mentioned about the divisions of time, the way he arranges the first six, what we call the first six chapters chronologically with each other in terms of his life experiences. And the second half of the book of Daniel is about his vision, which he also arranges chronologically according to themselves. And there's also the Aramaic and Hebrew division of the book. But there's also like the subject matter. Okay, so we introduce the book in chapter 1. And everything that we read about from the rest of the book of Daniel is going to relate to chapter 1. Just like in Jeremiah, how Jeremiah gives us the account of his call at the beginning of Jeremiah, and everything that we read throughout the rest of the book of Jeremiah relates somehow to that call. Daniel is very similar. Everything that we read about from the rest of the book of Daniel is going to relate somewhere or another to this opening section we just got done reading. And then from there are these parallel sections that match up with each other and explain each other, and then we see that here in chapter 2. Chapter 2 is going to have a parallel passage, not really parallel, but another passage in chapter 7 that link up with each other and talk about the same thing. So chapter 2 and chapter 7 are going to be talking about the same subject matter but from different perspectives. And then 3 and 6 are going to be the similar kinds of subject matter as well. So Daniel is very carefully arranged, very carefully written. Daniel did not just randomly write about his entire life and give us... I kind of wish he had. I wish we had Daniel's diaries from the day he entered Babylon to the day he died. We don't. We have a very carefully selected list of things he wanted the Jewish exiles going back to the land after the decree was given out and they could go. He wanted them to know that, so this is what he included. Okay. In the second year of his reign. So this is pretty early. This is pretty soon in Daniel's career. I don't know if he's graduated yet. I've read a bunch of different ways of looking at this. The third, when Daniel was taken into captive, Nebuchadnezzar may not have officially been king yet. I'm not entirely clear. It may have happened before his father died. It was the same year. I don't know about the time. I don't know about the exact timing. And then he had Nebuchadnezzar's accession year, which is not his first year as king. That's his accession year. Then he had this as his second year as king. So this would be around the time that Daniel would be graduating. I don't know if he has graduated yet, but it would be around this time. Excuse me. I gotta change position here. I don't know if he has graduated yet, but it would be around this time. This is the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. This is about 603 BC or so. Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. This position, that's better. His mind was troubled, and he could not sleep. So he had a dream, which apparently woke him up, and then he was troubled and couldn't go back to sleep again. Apparently, that seems to be the sequence of events here. So he had a dream. It disturbed him. He woke up. He was troubled. I'm not sure if it's because he couldn't remember the dream, or he did remember the dream and he was disturbed about it and didn't want to know what it meant. I'm not sure. And he could not sleep. So apparently he woke up after this dream, was disturbed by it, and couldn't go back to sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers, apparently in the middle of the night, I don't know, to tell him what he had dreamed. So he wants to know what he's dreamed. Now that seems to indicate he's forgotten the dream. I honestly don't know if he had or not. I'm just not clear on this. It seems like it. It's very possible. He had a dream. He was disturbed by it. He woke up after the dream. He couldn't remember the dream. He was disturbed by it. He wanted to know the meaning of the dream, but he also wanted to know the dream itself. It seems like he's summoning them in there to tell him what he dreamed. But then we go on to say, when they came in and stood before the king, he said to them, I have had a dream that troubles me, and I want to know what it means. So that seems to indicate that he remembers the dream, and it troubles him. He wants to know what it means. So I don't know. I honestly just don't know. To me, it's just not clear whether he remembered the dream or not. Then the astrologers answered the king in Aramaic, and so at this point the text changes to Aramaic, and it stays that way until the end of chapter 7. O king, now we don't see that in the English Bibles at all, of course. I can't speak Hebrew, I can't speak Aramaic. I'm assuming the vast majority of the people listening to me can't either. So it doesn't mean anything to us, really, in our English Bibles today, but you do have a footnote down there saying that, and you need to keep that in mind, that there is a language switch here in the book of Daniel. And that is true. I mean, you go back to the oldest copies we have of Daniel, which go all the way back to the 2nd century BC, I mentioned earlier, those fragments we have, and they preserve this language shift. So we know this language shift was original to the book of Daniel. O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will interpret it. The king replied to the astrologers, this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was, and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces, and your houses turned into piles of rubble. This was the guy who had no problems doing this to people. We read earlier about the court official being afraid the king would have his head if the men that he was in charge of didn't look good at the end of their training period. And he would have had his head. That was a legitimate fear. He would have had his head. We're going to read about a guy who throws people into furnaces in chapter 3. We've already read about that in Jeremiah 29, that Nebuchadnezzar liked throwing people into furnaces. Daniel himself is going to tell Nebuchadnezzar, both here and chapter 4, that God has given you dominion over all living things. Who you want to live can live, who you want to die dies. God has given you that authority. So this was a guy who had no problems making good on his promises to punish people. It seems as though from this that he did remember the dream, and he had decided not to tell them the dream, because if they could tell him his dream, then he would know that they could interpret it for him. That's what it seems like to me. My feeling is that he did remember the dream and made an active decision not to tell anybody the dream, even though he remembered it, because that was a test to prove that whoever gave him the interpretation of the dream could be counted on. If you can tell a man what he's dreamed before he tells you, without him telling you, he can then be certain that you're going to tell him how, and you're right. If you're right about it, he can be certain that you're going to be right about interpreting it too. And that's what he really wanted to know, was the interpretation. So my guess, to me, it's not really clear. I could kind of see it either way, that he just forgot the dream, because you forget dreams when you wake up, it's possible. But since he seems to have made an active decision not to share the dream first as a test for his wise men, that would seem to indicate that he did remember. If he didn't remember the dream, he couldn't make the demand for them. How do I say this? If he didn't remember the dream, he would have to ask them to tell them the dream first. Which, of course, they could then say anything, maybe, and convince him that's what he dreamed. So it seems like for him to be able to make this demand and make this decision, he would have to remember the dream and actively choose not to tell them as a test. But I don't really know. I mean, one man in all of history knows, and that's Nebuchadnezzar himself, and he's been dead for 2,600 years. So I don't know. I really don't know. If he is in heaven, if he makes it there, which I'm not sure if he's there or not, and I see him, I might ask him. But I honestly can't tell from the language here whether he had remembered it or forgotten it. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So, tell me the dream and interpret it for me. That's it. Those are some pretty harsh conditions. It's one or the other. Either you're going to get cut into pieces and your house turned into rubble, or you're going to get reward and gifts and great honor. Once more they replied, "Let the king tell his servants his dream, and we will interpret it." Then the king answered, "I am certain that you are trying to gain time, because you realize that this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is just one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will change. So then, tell me the dream, and I will know that you can interpret it for me." The astrologers answered the king, "There is not a man on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal this to the king except the gods, and they do not live among men." The Babylonian gods didn't live among men. These Babylonian wise men did not have any real communication with their gods, or the god, certainly. And they acknowledge it here. They may not want to. They may not even really be aware that they are. But they are acknowledging here that in the end, they don't believe in a God that they can actually access or talk to. This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. This may have all happened the same night, and it seems to me this is all happening like in the middle of the night. This would be quite an interesting experience. You have someone banging at your door saying, "Get up, I'm supposed to put you to death." I've had people bang on my door in the middle of the night. I don't like it. Okay, I don't like when that happens. I've had it happen a number of times since I've been living here in this apartment alone. It's not pleasant. And the fire department banged on my door one night, about 11 o'clock at night. Actually, it was like 1 o'clock at night. I was already down for the night. I had the fire department banging on my door saying, "Get out! We gotta get in there. We gotta check things." Here you have a guy banging on the door in the middle of the night, apparently in the middle of the night, from what it seems like, saying, "I'm here to put you to death. Get out!" When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer, why did the king issue such a harsh decree? So he was not present for this scene. If it happened in the middle of the night and they all hastily assembled in front of the king after he couldn't go to sleep, after being awakened by his disturbing dream, then Daniel was only a teenager still, probably. I mean, this is early in the book, in his training. He may not even be done with training yet. I'm not sure. Even if he is, he's barely more than a high school graduate, so he's not in the king's inner circle at this point. So he asked the king's officer, why did the king issue such a harsh decree? Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel. At this, Daniel went into the king and asked for time, so that he might interpret the dream for him. I don't know if Daniel has any realistic expectation of God giving him interpretation at this point, or if he's just trying to keep himself alive for a few more hours. I'm not really sure. He does end up getting interpretation after he and his friends pray about it, but I don't know if he necessarily knows for certain he's going to get it at this point. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So apparently they were all living together in the same house this time. He urged them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men in Babylon. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. So apparently this is all the same night, apparently. Apparently this is all happening in the same overnight period. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven and said, Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons. He sets up kings and deposes them. Later on, by the way, we're going to read about another guy, someone who's not God, trying to change times and seasons too. Only God can do that, though. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank and praise you, O God of my fathers. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king. So he's speaking on him for himself and on behalf of his friends here as well. Then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret his dream for him. Arioch took Daniel to the king at once, and said, I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means. The king asked Daniel, also called Belteshazzar, Are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and interpret it? Daniel replied, No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in days to come. Your dream and the visions that pass through your mind as you lay in your bed are these. As you were lying there, I'm going to go start a new video now. That's a good place to stop.